What's going on, everyone? Welcome to The Climb, Episode 5. The junglers are roaming in the mountain. I am joined by two beautiful legends. Once again, I am XRAY, but I have two great gentlemen here today. My first co-host is a menace in the jungle. Don't give this man J4 because he will win the game in 15 minutes. Sulpan.
What's up? Desperately coping on a one trick. One day we'll play one other champ, but for now it's 3-4.
All right, gotcha. Good to know. And my second co-host is a veteran of Summit, but has been taking a break from the league. SOMUCHDOG, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Hey, yeah. So let's get to know these fine gentlemen a little bit. Let's start off with Sulpan. When did you join Summit officially? Because you weren't here at the start.
No, I guess I was in Summit before it was, or I was in La Liga before it was La Liga, because of I think it started out as like Bronco Tournament Gaming and then became Fight Club Friday and then became La Liga. And then I graduated and left Idaho, so then I was just like not here for a bit. And then when I came back, I was just playing solo queue one day and I actually ran into Eldaho in solo queue, and I was like, I think I typed to him like, "Hey, are you like one of Woojin's Smurfs?" And he was shocked. It's just like, what? How does he know who Woojin is? And why does he think I'm Woojin? And then because I saw that Woojin had changed his name to Boise at the time, and then we ended up like barely scraping a win out of that game, and then he invited me to Summit after. I was like, oh, okay, sure. Or to La Liga Season 4 at the time. So Season 4 La Liga, right before
you joined
became
Season
Summit.
4? Oh,
yeah.
I thought you joined like Season 3.
No, I'm pretty new to the whole league.
Oh, wow. I definitely thought you were like a Season 3 player, but Season 4, that changes things. So, yeah. I mean, I think your impact on the league has been pretty good. The J4 menace. Don't give this man J4.
B1 J4 ban J4. B1 J4 ban J4. The only time it's not banned is whenever people B1 it. It's very frustrating.
So I mean, hey, but you're doing pretty good this season. And yeah, let's move on to Mr. SOMUCHDOG. I think you, like me, have been here since the beginning, correct?
Yep, I've been here since La Liga Season 1. I did a couple of the Fight Club Fridays here and there, but I just played a lot of League with Saul and Space Murph and their group of friends, and when La Liga started, I joined right up. It sounded fun.
Yeah, and I think... What team were you on Season 1?
I was on Minor Force with Asteria. And
oh, okay, yeah.
I would name the other people, but I don't think you guys care.
I don't remember anyone.
I can't remember some of their names at the time.
That was 3 years ago from now, so long time ago.
Gourmet Cookies was on that team.
Oh, really? That's cool. Nice. So yeah, let's go on and move on into the game. So we revert back to the previous format, but we're gonna move it along a little bit faster this time. So let's start off Week 7 games, and setup versus We Hate Gophers. Apologies. So I mean, first off, let's talk about Mr. Highcone's setup. Amazing team players showed up in a big way this series, and they played phenomenally. We Hate Gophers, though, unfortunately, are not looking like a very good team. I mean, at the start of the season, they looked like a really strong team, 2-0, but after Week 3, they just kind of fell off like in a really big way. Now, I guess like my question is like, will this team be able to come back? They still have 2 games to play, so they can still make playoffs, but I guess we're going to kind of see what they show us in these next 2 games that they have to play. But let's pass it on to Mr. Sulpan. What are your thoughts on this series?
So I think that it's really unfortunate timing for this team. I don't remember which patch this game was played on, but kind of talking about the team overall for We Hate Gophers, this patch is the one that brought down Belveth and then brought tank junglers back into the game. We Hate Gophers, to me, is the like slight clone of Goofy Gophers. They have the exact same setup where it's the weaker bot side with a strong mid and top, and then the difference between them is less power in mid and top for more power in jungle on We Hate Gophers. But Don Pancho is having a really rough time this patch, I think. His best champion is super nerfed, especially for competitive. Belvet's best builds were, at least in competitive, were like the bruiser ones. If you play the full AD style, you may as well lock in Master Yi, and then you have the same problems that Master Yi does. On top of that, like tank junglers coming back, it's like the carry potential of jungle is kind of down. There are still carry junglers, yes, you can still play them, but it's definitely moved more towards a meta that favors the tanks, and our junglers that are weaker are now more effective as a result. And so I think their whole team's going to struggle coming into the last part of the season, unless Don Pancho can like quickly work the new champs like Maokai. I know he already plays Lilia, Graves, back into his champ pool. They're going to suffer as a result. And then on top of that, it's just like the other problems the team's kind of had overall, which is just some general coordination issues, and it seems like they're not often on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Casey, what are your thoughts on and setup versus We Hate Gophers?
I think Sulpan nailed it with they're not necessarily on the same page. I think they have a lot of strong players, but they all have different ways of playing the game, and they're really struggling to kind of combine those and make something fruitful out of it. That's one of the biggest things holding them back, because I don't think that it's skill level. I think that all of them are very capable players, and they, on paper, should be able to compete with any team in the league. But I think that they are just playing a little uncoordinated, maybe tilted, and not pulling out the wins like they want to.
Yeah. No, and looking at the rest of the schedule, I think it's going to be really hard. I think so. The only way right now is that this team needs to get at least 2 points. So they need to win at least one series from one of these last two teams. But they're playing second and third place. They're playing Disco Spiders and Misfits. So we're going to kind of see how they can shape up to these two heavy dogs. Misfits have been on a hot streak recently, showing us why. Like they're one of the top two teams right now. And then Disco Spiders, after the loss versus Misfits, they have looked incredibly strong in a dominating fashion. So we'll see how they shape up. Let's move on to the next series, Don't Press Tab versus CBC. CBC had a dominant performance over Don't Press Tab, showing Goblin, Mr. PPP, showing Goblin who's the bot laner to play. Picked Sivir into Goblin and went 9-0 on him on the Sivir, so got to give props to Triple P there. And Cisco had a blast game too of the series, so this team really excels at team fighting, and after these last couple series that I've seen them play, they have showed us why they're one of the best team fighting teams. It's just because that's just the way they play. It's like let's all kill them all in a 5v5 scenario, and they do that. So
it's not just about let's kill them all in a 5v5 scenario. It's that DV for VP is willing and always seemingly able to teleport down the bottom lane for a 12-minute play as soon as Unleashed Teleport comes online. He's just there. And seems like it happens in every single CBC game where the jungler looks to gank bot around that time, and then I just see Teleport start channeling from top lane, and then there's an Ornn there. And it just happens constantly with DPT. It's a play to watch out for if you're ever playing against them. Or sorry, not DPT, corporate budget cuts. Mm-hmm. I think on top of this, DV for VP is a player that you typically consider to be like the weak side guy. He's really good at absorbing the pressure. He's really good at teleporting bot lane at 12 minutes and sacking 2 plates to make a play work or turn something around on the bot side. This series, though, he locked in Garen Mordekaiser. And I know those aren't even like true 1v9 carry champions. I think Garen this patch might be. Garen feels disgusting. And I think David did a really good job of actually punishing Brissy and finding advantages of his own throughout the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Casey, what thoughts on CBC and Don't Press Tab?
I think CBC, their team, I didn't expect this much out of them, but they're playing extremely well. You know, everybody jokes about PPP's builds, but he does bring it when he's on, and he plays as good as anybody else in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And Cisco and David, they're playing phenomenally. They're just solid rocks. They do their job every game. I do think that, like you said, with the whole 5v5 team fight, I think that's so strong in Summit. I think that a lot of teams struggle to find other like alternative avenues to find wins aside from 5v5s. They kind of everybody just plays for them, and CBC just their team all knows how to play that extremely well, and you're kind of falling into their trap by allowing that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this team has been performing really well. We'll talk about Don't Press Tab a little bit more in the week 8 and 9 games, but like I said, CBC showing us why they're currently 5th place right now. So gotta give it to them. They're playing extremely well, and hopefully they can finish their last game, which I believe is against Goofy Gophers. So that's a little bit of a hard matchup, but we'll see how they can shape up against against their playstyle of Goofy Gophers. So let's move on to the next series, Disco Spiders versus Better Learn Spanish. And you know what? We're actually going to have Sulpan start off with this one. I won't start on this one. We'll let another Disco Spider start off.
Yeah, this was a interesting series. We walked in fresh off a loss that I think really needed to take to learn and grow the season. And walked into this game with a brand new mindset of how we were going to play, how we were going to draft, and it worked really, really, really well. I'm not necessarily I think I'm still unsure if our new philosophy is locked into place, as it did kind of waver a little bit in our TPT series, but we definitely came out looking really strong against BLS. My takeaway from this series was that one, our new ideas are working very well, and then two, BLS is a team that has the opposite problem of Pyrosis and High Cosmo, Asteria, and those types of super aggro players where they don't have any one person on their team that's very aggro and wants to make plays. And I think when you lack that player, your entire team will really struggle to find any kind of advantage. Because when Pyrosis just solo kills a guy randomly in a side lane, it's oh my god, that just opens up so many possibilities of what we can do in this game. That's awesome. And yes, it's risky. He's going for the solo kill. He's burning summoners for it. But I mean, he gets it. When we played against BLS, they were literally only ever playing into us as with numbers. They were only ever feeling comfortable enough to take a fight when they had even numbers or outmatched us in numbers. And so what typically kept happening was we got some amount of luck. We were actually outplaying, I think, in the even matched fights. But then also whenever they ended up having numbers advantage over us, it was always Pi or XRAY or someone else was getting some kind of advantage in side lane. And then no one was ever punishing that player for being out there by themselves. They didn't have that player that was willing to just press the R button and go in on whatever person was in the side lane. So it really felt like that their entire team was just missing that key component of an X factor player that just does something crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Casey, got any thoughts on Disco Spiders and BLS?
Yeah, I want to add to what Sulpan said by saying they have players that are capable of doing that. I know that Saul and Daniel, Injustice, just who's their mid laner?
Dandy.
Dandy. Yeah, I mean, realistically, even Darjees and stuff, they're all playing on the back foot the whole game, and they are capable players. They are fully capable of outplaying their opponents. Mm-hmm. And when they find themselves in a good position, I think that they might need to encourage each other to press on that advantage a little bit harder just so that they can get these plays because, yeah, like I said, they are capable. And if they know that they're in a good position, really exploit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think...
Don't just take it. Don't just nibble and let it slowly add up. If the opportunity's there to take a really big lead, you got to take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, and I want to point out, like, Pyrosis had a phenomenal series this series. Silas on the Oriana, he was making Dandy not seem like he was playing the game at all. Like, he was showing up in a big way. Gonna toot my own little horn here. My ultimates that this series were on point. I saved Sulpan with a 4-man ults. My ultimates were on point. Space Smurf and Plants and Poros, honestly, just holding down in the bot lane. First game, PLS killed 3 people in the team. That was it. It was like, I don't even want to count how many kills we had, but like, it was not a very close series, or game 1 at least. And then, game 2, I think it was a little bit closer, but Disco Spiders still pull out in the front. So, but yeah, let's move on to the next series. GG versus Asteria's Bonobos, whatever you call them.
Red Hot's is Bonobos now.
Oh yeah, Red Hot's Bonobos now. Thank you. No, because they had Asteria in this series.
This is the Asteria game, yeah.
From
now on.
They're still the Asteria's Bonobos. So yeah, first off, I'm gonna shout out my boy Elodad. Elodad showed us the difference between number 1 top lane and number 2 top lane. He showed Kanga what it feels like to be a silver player playing against a diamond player. Elodad just showed up in a big way, showing off his incredible powers. And then I am Nickus came out in a really strong manner, playing the A-Soul, playing the Victor, not letting Dragontooth do anything in the mid lane. So, I got to give credit to those 2 players. The rest of the team played great. Series Bonobos, whatever. Unfortunately, they just did not have a super great series. We'll talk more about them in a little bit later. But, I just don't think this team is as good as some people think. Out of the top 6 teams, they're number 6. So we'll see how they fare in the playoffs. But yeah, let's pass to Sulpan. What are your thoughts on this series?
So, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, Asteria's Bonobos is the team that wants to carry through Kanga. Dragontooth is there to use playmaking abilities. Morn is there to try and get advantages for Asteria. But it just didn't come together this game. I think Gix is one of those junglers that punches up really, really well, and did so in this series, actually. And then, obviously, just because there were such high lane gaps, like, he also looked really good. Mm-hmm. But I think one thing that's interesting is that when you have players like Kanga who want to play the strong side top, and they're playing into another player like Elodad who also plays strong side top, sometimes I think like Kanga got a little too used to just like owning noobs throughout most of the season, and just like getting that kill, getting like 2 kills when the jungler comes up, finding a crazy advantage, and then like being really big. And I think that Elodad is that player who won't let him do those things ever. So then he has to play like a much more even matchup, and then Elodad will just win over time. I don't think I got to see the drafts for these games, but either way, the fact that Elodad was on Gangplank in game 2, it was shocking to me. I cannot believe that champ got the draft.
He played Mundo. Kanga played Mundo the second game.
Yeah,
that's how bad Kanga wanted to win. He played Mundo.
Yeah,
and
willing to relegate himself to tank duty. But when again, it's the same problem that Kanga actually experienced the flip side of this when he played against Ann Setup in the first week of the season, where he played Camille, Logic locked Poppy, and he completely just stomped him into the ground because he just knows the counter matchup way better than Logic, who's maybe played the matchup twice in his life, knows it. So yeah, I mean, like, I think that there's something to be said about players in Summit who play tanks being much better at absorbing the pressure of these carry tops than Kenka probably would be.
Yeah. Casey, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the first time in the history of Summit, really, that Joe's been challenged by somebody else that's going to play a carry bruiser top lane, as opposed to just sitting on a tank needing to ban Camille because they can't soak up the true damage and everything. And while other players may have played the bruisers in the past, they just went into it thinking, man, I don't think I can punish Joe hard enough to make it work. And Joe got the flip side of that this last series, where Elodad is going to get the advantage on the bruiser. And what do you do? What do you answer when your champ pool is to play the carry, the bruisers in the side lane, and you're not the one that's going to win it? That's a challenge, and I think that their team needs to learn how to adapt to that in whatever capacity that they need to. And we'll see if they're able to do that in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Asterios Bonobos a little bit later, but Goofy Gophers, this is the last series we're going to talk about for this week. The rest of their series, they're playing against and Setup, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Corporate Budget Cut. So two pretty heavy hitter teams. Misfits number 2 right now, or sorry, not Misfits, and Setup number 1 right now, sitting at 17 points. So, and Setup has looked pretty good. They have had a couple stumbles along the way, but this is gonna be a new matchup for Goofy Gophers. And Setup, having a stronger top, or playing against a stronger top side. We'll see how they can match up into Elodad and I Am Nikus in the mid lane. I think Setup will be fine, but we'll talk about those guys a little bit later. Moving on though, MNC versus Misfits. This series I'm actually really excited to talk about. First off, let's talk about my boy OT Gator, the first OT Gator fan. Man, he made this team look a whole lot different when Ranger was on it, and that's just the hard truth. OT Gator was making plays around the map in a really big way. Game 1, they let Ivern through, got a hard counter. Misfits took game 1 really strong. And then game 2 and 3, neutral Azrael. Talk about a mid laner that is kind of, I never really thought of him as I knew he was a good mid laner, but I didn't know how he was gonna match up to everyone else, just because this is his rookie season of Summit. But after these 2 games versus Misfits, he showed us why he's a good mid laner. So, I think he's going to be going up in the power rankings, in my opinion. But, well played by both teams. Misfits did pull out the win, though, 2-1. So, got to give credit where it's due. Excuse me. But, yeah, MNC, I think, is a team in their last series, which I think they're playing BLS, which is definitely a possibility. Oh, I just fudged that up. That's okay. But yeah, they're playing BLS, so we'll see how they go. Misfits, though, who knows? Maybe they can win their last series. Been playing We Hate Gophers. I'd say it's a pretty strong possibility. But yeah, let's pass it over to Sulpan. What are your thoughts on it?
So yeah, I do think OT Gator brought a lot to this team. Even though he's strictly just ranked worse than Ranger. Ranger does have the champ rule problem. OT Gator, as far as I can tell, has got a very, very deep champion pool, and also has a bit more of a forceful voice when he's in comms. He's very willing to say I need you to do this. And I think that's something that maybe Ranger was not doing for this team, or didn't feel like he could do. Outside of that, I think that like OT Gator might help enable them a little more. And then, like you mentioned, Neutral Azurill is like really showing up here in these games. And what I'm looking at whenever I see him play is like, and he streams every single game and sometimes scrims, so like I've seen him play a lot. It's like he'll play really well. He'll like get these solo kills and make big plays. He'll just get a bunch of kills. But then like I feel like no matter what, there's always like a time where he just gets caught by something that he like shouldn't do, and it's always at the most critical moments. So it's like he just has these like tiny lapses of either judgment or positioning, or something goes slightly wrong, and all of a sudden he's caught and he's dead. And maybe it's because there's so much pressure on him in these games to carry that. Like this is the reason he's mispositioning. But I think that he is a very good player. He's definitely a mid laner to be feared, and I think he punches up extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe he's not even like taking someone as seriously as he could be, and like he's even like potentially holding back some of his power levels, so to speak, from the entire mid lane pool of Summit.
Ooh, I like that. I actually like that analogy. SOMUCHDOG, got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it with the MNCs, so I'm gonna go over to the Misfits side of things. This team they started off like in their first couple series, they were kind of rough, but really like they have just grown so much in this season. It's unbelievable. And like they were already pretty good players before, but I think in the last few weeks, every single person on their team has been playing extremely well, and they're hard to match. I also got to give credit to Red. He's got to be the only ADC in the league that's actually willing to play Swain, and it's had a 54% win rate for 4 years. Maybe some other people might want to bite the bullet and learn how to play it. It's pretty OP. And the team just they're a problem. They're cohesive. They like to play together. And they've got two supports roaming around buffing up their carries. So that's hard to deal with, killing the carry when he's got two supports saving him at the same time.
Thank gosh Ivan's getting nerfed next patch. Thank gosh. About time. No, but yeah, no, totally agree. Misfits showing us why they're second right now. MNC though, I think they're a team that has a possibility of making playoffs. BLS has not been playing super great, so we'll see how they kind of match up to them. Let's move on to week 8 and 9 games. I believe this is a week 8 game. Don't press tab versus Ant setup. So, Ant setup. I mean, Heiko and Fleas showed up in a really big way. Not beating Goblin once, but twice, and back-to-back games, showing Goblin like you may be a Masters or a ex-Masters ADC player. Yeah, not against us. We're also a Masters bot lane according to Heiko and Fleas. They showed us, played really well. Game 2 though, they picked Ezreal Yumi. Gross, poo, disgusting. Why would you do that? But they played well. The rest of the team played exceptionally well. Shout out to Beartail. Couldn't be here for this episode, but he played extremely well as well. And yeah, I mean, don't press tab. I mean, we'll talk about them after this game, but like they just have not been super strong, and like I want this team to play well and like do well, but like they have not been showing us like they are a top team and a team to like wanting to be in playoffs. So, but yeah, let's pass it on to Sulpan.
Yeah, between the series, I mean, I thought Gargar official actually had a really good showing. I think at one point in that game 1, he was up like 5-0, 5-1 on Silas, and just wasn't able to convert it into a lead. or into like a game win. They had a really good scaling bot, and it was like, okay, well, so you got you got your jungle to the lead. Can you like pass this off to Cog somehow? And in fact, they just couldn't capitalize. I thought about Logic just teleporting down into their lane constantly with the Rise. Made it so hard for that Cog to actually come online. And even despite that, I mean, Goblin tried to make some plays. There was that moment where he was mid, and Heiko walks up and tries to 1v1 him, and Goblin, I think, got a shutdown off of it, but still Heiko manages to trade him back for like 1-for-1. It just felt like they were just bleeding everywhere across the map, and then playing into higher scaling than they ever locked in across this series, and then even setup kind of pulling out something really interesting in the Jace. Obviously, mostly known for the control mages. It was really cool to see him lock something in that like wasn't in that style, and I think setup's like kind of improving this season that he can play champions outside of just the Victor Vigar and playing them very, very effectively in games.
Yeah, for sure. For Dopress Tab, they have 3 rookies on their team, and for their first experience with competitive, I think that they are kind of into the shock of what happens when you go into a custom 5v5 and how everybody's got to play their role. You've got to work together, and it is different from solo queue. You're not able to just side lane and capitalize on people miscommunicating. They're telling you when you leave the lane, and all of that stuff. I think that they're slowly growing as a team, but I think that they weren't prepared for what it would take to really excel in a competitive league, which is the time commitment of, if you're new to it, you probably got to scrim a lot. You got to put in a lot of extra out of game effort, and I think that the team wasn't prepared for that, and they're seeing the struggles of that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And let's actually transitioning from Don't Press Tab, let's actually move on to the next series, Don't Press Tab versus Disco Spiders. Disco Spiders, showed us like they 2-1. Don't Press Tab. They probably should have 2-0'd. They stumbled game 2. I don't really know what to say about it yet. Still going in my head. But, Don't Press Tab kind of showed us, like, they had a really dominant performance game 2. They had leads in the bot lane. They had a lead in the top lane. They were out roaming, outplaying everyone. So, they were showing us, like, they're a good team, but they just have, like, poor execution at times. So I just think this team, with them being finished, Don't Press Tab, week 9, they played their week 9 game. They're all done. They're sitting at 8th place with 8 points. So MNC still has 1 game. We Hate Gophers has 2. And BLS is 7th, has 1 game left. So it's going to kind of depend on how everyone will play. However, I'm not optimistic of this team making playoffs, and if they do, awesome, but I'm not super excited for this team if they do make playoffs. I think their chances of winning are very low. But yeah, let's pass it on to SOMUCHDOG first.
And this for the Disco Spiders DPT series.
Mm-hmm.
Disco Spiders tends to just be extremely coordinated. You guys all punch above your weight, and you guys do what a competitive team needs to do. You guys play to each other's strengths. You guys accept where each individual player is, and everybody does their best to do what is required of them. And if they can, they go above and beyond. And on the converse side, you might even argue that there's better players in individual lanes, in some lanes on DPT, but are they going to take advantage of those leads? Are they going to get the resources that they need and be coordinated enough to apply those when they need to? I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sulpan, any thoughts?
From this series, For one, shout out Brissy, solo boloing the solo bolo king twice on the
No,
Orin as well.
he's the new solo bolo king.
The new solo bolo king and
Beast
solo
round.
god, right? Something like that.
What's a king
Either
to
way,
a god?
Brissy, I thought Brissy like actually impressed me a lot this series. I kind of felt like there was like maybe a few moments where he was lost, but I mean, I think still punched up very well into X-Ray. And then there was that play. Oh my god, I need to give him a shout out for this, where we weren't paying attention to the roaming Azir, and he threw me into tower, and then Brissy stunned me into my own pillar, and I was just dumbfounded.
Oh yeah, I loved that.
That's
that was
right.
excellent.
I was like, I cannot believe that this just happened. I even burned my flash and died for it anyways. It's just horrible. Either way, and then he also landed ult on me permanently throughout the rest of the game, to make sure I couldn't use the advantage I was building on Trundle. But I mean, I think one thing that stood out to me from the series was that like, I'm not sure what Goblin sees in Ashe that makes her so powerful in his eyes. I really think that like Goblin's a player that can 1v9 with enough items, and I was expecting him to lock in Twitch this series, and it just didn't come out. Like it was open all 3 games in the first phase. He's shown that he's willing to pick that in the first phase in the past. I was just like, what's missing here? Why do you feel the need to lock in Ashe so badly? And yes, he was stomping lane on it, but then like those mid game team fights, it was just like it felt like we were always too tanky and just able to run him down, and he didn't have any dashes or like self peel or enchanter support to like really help him get through the team fights.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like
sure.
they may have had just some ideas about the game that I would have, if I was like drafting for this team, I would have probably picked up different champs for all of them. I wasn't necessarily like thinking that they were playing to their strengths with what they were locking in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think, don't press tab, they can still make playoffs. They're currently still in it until they're not. So we'll see if they can stay number 8 for, the rest of the games, or will they stay, or will someone win and knock them down? So, because all they got to do, all the, Mystic Ninjas or Mystic Ninjas just need 1 point to get ahead, and then We Hate Gophers just needs 2 points. So we'll see how Don't Press Tab matches up. Disco Spiders, finishing off with them. They play We Hate Gophers in the last week, or their week 8 game. I'm not super... I'm not very enthusiastic for We Hate Gophers to win this series, but... We Hate Gophers have done more impressive things over the past couple weeks, so we'll see what they can pull out. Let's move on, though. AB versus MNC, and I'm going to say it, MNC, we were just talking about them, how they look so much different than...
Are they going to have Asteria back?
No. They had Red Hots.
This is the Red Hots game.
This is the Red Hots Bonobos game. Man, MNC, Neutral Zerl, them, the whole team honestly played exceptionally well in these last these two games. They 2-0'd Red Hots Bonobos. I don't even know what to say, because like they just looked so dominant. Game 1 it was really Red Hots Bonobos for the longest time, but they had that one team fight where they can in the base and they can just run it down mid lane, and they did that. And then game 2, I honestly think game 2 it seemed like it was more of like tilting, I would say, like Red Hots Bonobos. They were still playing fairly well, but Thim was like 9-0, I think, by the end of the game on the Draven. So like it was just a dominant performance game 2, but game 1 really close. But MNC finally gets some points after their week 1 win. They finally get their second win. Now they're sitting at 8 points. They're tied for 7th now. So all they need to do is get a point, and they're in playoffs. So I'm actually really excited about this team now. I'm pretty enthusiastic about this team now. I've been an MNC hater for a while, but now I'm enthusiastic because they look really good. So let's pass it on to Sulpan. Thoughts on
yeah, I'm not enthusiastic. I hope these guys get 2-0 so we don't have to see them in playoffs.
Oh.
No, they are scaling. They're doing very well. This is like their second game after OT Gator joined the team, right? So I think that first game they had like those like initial things to kind of shake out, see how they were feeling, and then this game is where they were actually able to show like what they've learned and like that they have learned to play together. From what I know, they actually scrimmed quite a bit, at least previously, and so like now that they're scrimming with OT Gator, they're getting the practice in that they need, and they showed up massively in the series. Big extra shout out to Asuna. Yes, he played Malphite in game 1, but I think he got a solo kill on Yone in game 2.
Ooh.
So being like having the confidence to pick a carry top into Kanga when it's Kanga you're facing, and if you give away that lead, like he is just going to run over the game, like we talked about earlier. I thought that was really, really cool seeing him play so well on his like signature pick.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then obviously it was like kind of the them show in that game too, anyways. But I mean, I was just really happy to see Asuna step up and play the lane really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. SOMUCHDOG, any thoughts?
So I didn't get to watch this series very closely because I was streaming another series at the same time. But I will say that it is exciting to see someone playing something like Draven, like a more of a snowballing, aggressive champ in the bot lane. Because the most aggressive champ since Samira is banned in every series against Korai and Nightmare, the most aggressive champ that we're seeing early game is Ashe, and it is a slow bot lane season, and the best players are playing on slow burning carries, and it's nice to have a change of pace in the bot lane and have it be more of a bloodbath and just sprint at them and just cause fights and chaos. It was fun. For the bits that I did see, it was really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Like, Thin played amazing. And congrats on MNC for finally getting their second win. I think this team is someone to watch out for. Like I said previously, they're playing BLS, so we'll see how they match up. BLS has been really shaky for the past couple weeks, so we'll see how they match up to MNC. Let's move on to the final series we'll talk about today: CBC versus AB. Corporate Budget Cuts versus Red Hot Bonobos. And Corporate Budget Cuts, they did get the win, 2-1. And like I said, I'm just gonna emphasize this more. Corporate Budget Cuts, this season, I would say this is probably the best team for team fighting. Like they do it so, like they're just like when they're 5 strong, they're just connected. They just know what they need to do, and they perform extremely well in it every time. Showing us like why they're a good team right now. Showing us like what this team is made of. So I'm really excited about this team. However, they're playing Goofy Gophers for the last series, so we'll see how they can match up into Eildad. I'm Nickus. You're playing number 1 top laner, number 3 top laner for CBC. So we'll see how it goes. And then finally, AB. I believe so. There's only one scenario where AB is not 6th seed, but I'm going to say Red Hot Bonobos is locked in for 6th seed of playoffs, though, because they can't gain any more points. This is their 9th game that they played, and yeah, so Red Hot Bonobos are locked in for 6th place. The only team that can possibly pass them is We Hate Gophers, but they would have to go 4-0 for the rest of they would have to win every game without losing. So I doubt it will happen, but so I essentially am locking in Red Hot Bonobos for 6th place, but we'll see how they do in playoffs. let's send it to Sulpan for CBC versus AB.
What a series. Complete stomp. So I got to cast this entire thing, so I'm very familiar with it. Complete stomp in game 1. It was looking like it was going to be a quick 2-0 for Red Hot's Bonobos. And there was just a weird team fight. And this was the game that had the... I think it was game 2 that had the funky draft with the Silas.
Oh yeah, the Silas Tarek.
I was casting with Baratel.
Yeah, Silas Tarek.
Baratel had no faith in it.
That's right.
And I remember... during this game, like, it was a complete stomp, and then, like, I was getting distracted because my cat was, like, biting my feet while I was casting, so I was, like, dealing with him. And then I hear Baratel start, like, yelling, and I'm like, oh, another team fight's happening. And then I hear, like, him casting that people are, like, dying on Red Hot's Bonobos, and I'm like, what? And I look back, and it's, like, a 5-0 ace, and the Tarek team just wipes them, and then gets Baron, and then the game was completely, like, even again. I was just like, oh my god, okay. So CBC, I think, is completely untiltable, and the one thing that could stop them is potentially having too many cooks in the kitchen with PvP and Sunny Blues. But I mean, DV and Cisco trusting both of them was huge for that series, I think, and even thanks to the Tarek ban in Game 3, Giuseppe Hack even got his signature Echo and had a great game on that as well.
Wow. I kind of forgot about the cook, the Tarek Silas bot lane. That was I mean, Kendra too. I mean, the invulnerability and not taking any damage was pretty insane.
Yeah.
The little bits I did get to see, so but yeah, let's SOMUCHDOG. Any thoughts on this series?
You know, I gotta ask you guys a question here about, like, I view corporate budget cuts as a kind of similar team to Better Learn Spanish, where, you know, just overall they seem very similar and they like to play more for team fights and whatnot. What do you guys think makes corporate budget cuts so much more successful with it than Better Learn Spanish? If you could say much more successful. I mean, it's 4-4 versus 3-5, but seems like they have pulled together quite a few wins that were unexpected.
I can give a few reasons. What do you think, XRAY?
So kind of going off of what Sulpan said earlier about BLS. Well, I don't know if you said it specifically, but my kind of thought is BLS doesn't really have, like, that go button, right? You know, no one, like, the only person that really says, like, let's go is Boise, is, like, the only person that I think I think of, like, the person that is like, hey, let's go do this right now, you know, like, like, the team's messing up here. But, you know, recently I haven't been seeing, like, Boise, you know, like, making those, like, it's like go plays, right? However, CBC has, like, 3 people that I, like, really say go do this, right? I see Sunny Blues saying it, DV, and Giuseppe, I would say, is, like, half one. I'd also say maybe Cisco is probably one. So, like, DV, Sunny Blues, and Cisco, and then I would honestly say Giuseppe Hack is probably like a half one. But, you know, they have so many go buttons on CBC, and that's why they're so successful, in my opinion, is because they're like, hey, let's just do this. And then if they lose the team fight, which normally they don't because they're just so cohesive in the play, they just succeed in the play. So that's why I think they're better than BLS, comparing those two. Like I said, BLS only really has one go button, to my understanding. So, Sulpan, any thoughts?
I was gonna say, my only thing was, like, CBC has 5 talkers. You got Sunny Blues, who's very vocal. You got Proton's very vocal. DV can't even shot call. Cisco, I'm not sure how much he talks now anymore, but, like, he used to be, like, a very, very vocal player. And Giuseppe Hack is at least a shit talker, if nothing else. So, I mean, you have 5 people who are so vocal that are always communicating the conditions of their lane opponents, the conditions of, like, what they can do to move to a fight. And I think that makes them very, very effective. And then, like, everyone's willing to actually make a play off that information. It's not just like, oh, you're bot lane or you're being ganked bot. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna farm. It's like, oh, you're being ganked bot? I'll see you in 5 seconds. I'm channeling. It's like, oh my god, here he is. Here comes Ornn.
Yeah.
So I think like CBC just has like better team cohesion for it, and then still has like better mechanical players. I think Sunny and Proton are both probably mechanically better than Nightmare and Boise. And that's my hot take for the week. But one more thing I wanted to say really quick, because I forgot to mention it, was Dragon Tooth popped off game 1 and absolutely deserves kudos for making Azir a bannable champion.
Oh yeah. So I know Dragon Tooth personally. I work with him. So he, out of all the champions that I would have thought for him to like pick, the last one would have been Azir. But you know, he played it a couple weeks ago and had a phenomenal performance, hitting some really good shuffles, and then played that, I think, game 2. Didn't do so hot, but I think he still got the win. But you know, he's showing us like, hey, he's got a couple more champions than just Galio and Ornn mid lane. So
I don't think that's on Dragon Tooth. I think these teams kind of saying, "Now you're playing these champs for us." So.
Actually, give us the scoop.
I cannot confirm or deny that. So, let's there's one of the series, BLS versus Misfits. I don't really want to talk about it too much, just because of all the drama. Misfits 2-0 real quick. Kind of just swept them under the ground. I mean, BLS game 2, it literally just looked like they were just trying to get out of the game as quick as possible. So, let's move on. Let's actually talk about the this playoff standing. So, like I said, top 8 teams go into playoffs. Currently, we have the top 6 teams are secured for playoffs and set up. Misfits, Disco Spiders, Goofy Gophers, Cobra Budge Cuts, and Red Hot Bonobos are all locked in for playoffs. Now it's just about seeding, where's every team gonna finish the season off, and then let's actually talk about the last 4 teams. 7, 8, 9 are at 8 points. BLS, Don't Press Tab, Mystic Ninja Cyclones, and then 10th place, We Hate Gophers. So this is a really interesting scenario, because I don't think we've ever had this close of like a standing at the very bottom before. I think we've had a couple at like the very top, but never this close at the bottom. And so it's like, which team wants it more, right? We've talked about Don't Press Tab. You know, they can't play any more games. They're stuck at 8 points, 3 and 6. So I just want to know what your guys' thoughts on the bottom 4 teams, and like, where do you think they'll land after their last, We Hate Gophers 2 games, but their last few games. Sulpan, let's start with you.
Yeah, to me it's completely obvious. Mystic Ninja Cyclones is surging upwards. Their stocks are increasing. They're just getting better and better, it looks like. Better Learn Spanish, Don't Press Tab, and We Hate Gophers. I will say this. Better Learn Spanish and Don't Press Tab have both been falling off towards the end of the season. Literally, if Mystic Ninja Cyclones gets a single win against BLS, they're in playoffs. That's all they need. So I think that's completely doable for them. I think they're easily going to move up and then push down Don't Press Tab. The wild card for me here is We Hate Gophers. I think that they're still the team that has potential. I did mention that they're having like some struggles with the meta, I think, right now. But they're the team that, like, for whatever reason, they could just pop off against Disco Spiders, find like a weird 2-0 and like completely upset everything. I find them to be like a little bit unpredictable, and I don't really know where their team is at like mentally. But I could easily see this team sneaking into playoffs, and I guess at that point they'd be pushing down. I don't know what the head-to-head is between We Hate Gophers and Better Learn Spanish. I don't know if they need like 1 point.
They have, let me look. We Hate Gophers, I believe, lost to BLS.
Yeah, so they have to get a series win against Disco Spiders.
Or no, sorry, We Hate Gophers beat BLS. Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
That was their week 1 game.
So if they get a single win, they're also in playoffs.
Yep.
And I could, like, again, they're a bit of a wild card team. I could easily see that happening.
So yeah, I mean, it's anyone's game pretty much in the bottom 4. So interested to see even that. SOMUCHDOG, any thoughts on the bottom 4 teams?
Did you say that We Hate Gophers needs just a single win? It's not a series win. They just have to win in their series one game.
Yep. So We Hate Gophers. They just need one win in their next 2 series.
I think they can pull it off. I think Mystic Ninja Cyclones is for sure gonna pull it off and get the points that they need. But We Hate Gophers might have a chance. It just depends on if they want it enough to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all we gonna do. Let's finish off the predictions. There's only 3 games that we need to get predicted. We'll start off with the weeknight games. Both me and the co-hosts predicted CBC to win against Red Hot Bonobos and Disco Spiders to beat Don't Press Tab. So yeah, let's finish it off. MNC versus BLS. I'll start off. I'm gonna go MNC on this one. I think MNC scaling up. I think it's gonna be. I think it will go to all 3 games, but I think MNC will take the win in a pretty good fashion. And so yeah, what are your guys' thoughts?
I have to agree. I don't think he'll get 3 games. If Mystic Ninja Cyclones wins game 1, I think they'll just take the series. They are surging. They're looking really good, and I think they have what it takes to make this a quick 2-0.
Any kind of arguments, Casey?
Well, first, I have some questions for you. How many points do we need? Do I need to have like a Hail Mary to get past you to make sure you eat this fucking chip? Or what?
So I forgot to put it on this thing. So XRAY currently, I think this is updated. It may not be. XRAY is at 19 and 21. The co-hosts are 21 and 19.
Okay, so co-hosts are ahead?
Co-hosts are up, yes.
Okay, MNC.
All right.
Cheeky.
Fine then. You guys get to go first on this one. Misfits versus We Hate Gophers. What are your guys' predictions? Just a reminder, you both have to agree. So,
this one's, I think, going to be Misfits favored, because I think Kabubi is obviously We Hate Gophers' strongest point at this point in the season, and I could see like such a good job at absorbing Pyrosis' pressure that I think he did just fine against Kabubi as well. Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm privy to some secret information. I'm gonna say this is a 2-1 for We Hate Gophers.
Oh.
Whoa, against Misfits?
Yeah.
Yo, wait, hang on. SOMUCHDOG.
Oh,
do you agree with him on this one? Do you think We Hate Gophers?
Who's the mid laner for Misfits?
My Hot Daddy.
Okay. Gosh, it's hard to say that I think that We Hate Gophers is gonna do it, because they're just gonna ban out Gabubi's really oppressive champs, right? And it's not that he doesn't play extremely well on all of his champs. That some of them are a little bit more of the slow burn champs. You know, when he's playing Syndra and stuff, it's a little bit more of a slow burn. And I don't think his team has the mental patience to wait for it to 1v9. Gosh, if we have to agree,
you do have to agree. I'm not splitting it.
Huh?
You can probably convince me. I'd come back.
Okay, I think we should go with Misfits.
All right, Misfits.
Okay, I'm also gonna go with Misfits. I could try to take the gamble, but I'd rather get.
Is the gamble that you want to take really on the last place team versus the second place team?
No.
They might shock you. We'll see.
They could shock us, but I'm just saying that's the gamble that you're talking about.
Let me say the two games from week 8. Both me and the co-host have different things. So We Hate Gophers versus Disco Spiders. I predicted Disco Spiders. Co-host went We Hate Gophers, and then week 8 I went with Goofy Gophers, and co-host went with CBC. So there's a possibility of me getting those 2 points back. So
okay,
this is the last game. So that, by the way, if it's a tie, nothing happens. So I have to lose. So it's GG versus and setup.
Ooh.
I'll go first. So get to give you guys a little bit of advantage.
You know what I think?
I think let me finish and then I'll let you guys go. So this is a rough series because you're basically putting one of the top 2 teams, because you're basically putting number 1 and 2 in my opinion right now. Maybe 1 and 3. But I'm going to go with the team that I think is going to win. I'm going to say Goofy Gophers are going to win.
I actually agree. I think it's Goofy Gophers. Logic, the only time that Logic has failed was into Kanga. And Elodad is, as proven, the better Kanga. So I think he's such a key component to their team doing well. When Logic does well, and Setup does well. And I don't think he'll be able to do it this series. So I would give the advantage to Goofy Gophers here.
The only thing that I think might be a concern for Goofy Gophers losing is that I don't know that Elodad's champ pool is going to be able to punish High Cosmos champ pool. And I mean, he could misstep and everything, but I don't think he has anything that really gets on an Ezreal. And if they're not going to ban out setup, I mean, then they have Vagar Cage or something. I
think it does come down to High Cosmo and how he plays this series.
I completely agree. I think we know how the other lanes are going to go, but I think that, at least to a degree, at least marginally, it's going to be a bot lane versus top lane kind of game. I still think that Goofy Gophers is going to pull it out.
All right, so let's do a quick recap. So XRAY, he is at 19 and 21 for correct predictions. Co-hosts are 21 and 19. Now there's 5 series left. 5 series. All of week 9 games were the same. MNC versus BLS, MNC. Misfits versus We Hate Gophers, Misfits. And GG versus and Setup, Goofy Gophers for both of us. The 2 games that are important for prediction-wise are both the week 8 games. We Hate Gophers versus Disco Spiders, which is being played on the 24th. And Corporate Budget Coach versus Goofy Gophers, which I believe is playing on the November 4th, I believe. So if anyone wants to know what happens, those 2 games are the ones to watch for if XRAY will eat the hot chip if he finds it. Which I'm not actively looking for one, so
I can't find it if my eyes are closed.
True. So if someone finds the chip, I'm looking at my camera now. If you find the chip, you can send it to me, and I'll eat it. All right? If I lose, if we tie or if I win, well, actually, I can't win. If I tie, then I'm not eating the chip.
I also predict hot chip 2-0's XRAY.
I predict XRAY is gonna 2-1 the chip. But yeah, that is going to wrap up episode 5 of The Climb. Thank you so much, Dog and Sulpan, for joining me this week. I appreciate you, gentlemen. I'm glad to have you. And yeah, that's going to wrap up this episode of The Climb. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you next week. After week 9, we'll start looking at playoff, and yeah, see you guys.
See ya.